name is ShaManda Williams, and I teach at Fair Park Preparatory Academy in Caddo, Parish. As an educator, I am most passionate about creating an environment where every scholar can feel comfortable about learning math. With there being a deficiency in retention, literacy, and fluency, I want every scholar to know and feel that I foster a safe space for learning. In this video, you will see my 8th grade math class, and we will be using the illustrative mathematics curriculum. In this lesson, the students will be able to determine, is a table or a graph a proportional relationship? What does that mean? My students will be able to look at these graphs and tables and say, okay, what do I know about a proportional relationship? Does this graph represent it, and does this table represent it? In this lesson, our mastery criteria focuses on standard 8-point EEB, which is for students to understand the connection between proportional relationships, linear lines, and lines. Our success criteria is that by the end of this lesson, students will be graded on determining if a table or a graph represents a proportional relationship, and they should be able to explain their reasoning. Our overall goal is to understand proportional versus linear relationships within this lesson. Prior to this lesson, my students are going to investigate how to find the slope of a line. This knowledge will then transfer to the constant of proportionality. To prepare for this lesson, our students worked diligently on determining how to find the slope of a line and how to find the slope of a table. Students have to be comfortable with finding slope in a graph and a line to determine if this information is going to transfer to a proportional relationship. All right, so today we're looking at proportional relationships. Can someone read the objective?
Today I will interpret tables and graphs of proportional relationships in context so I can understand proportional relationships. I know I have when I determine if the table or the graph shows a proportional relationship.
All right, so from our objective, let's think about it. What would our mastery criteria be? What are we actually looking at, Jeremiah?
To understand proportional relationships.
All right, to understand proportional relationships, and where does that come from? Where does it come from? The standard. The standard. All right, well, what would my success criteria be? Prim.
Determine if the tables and graphs show a proportional relationship.
All right, determine if the tables and graphs show a proportional relationship. What does that actually mean? So by the end of this lesson, we should be able to do what? Understand proportional relationships so that we can determine if the table and graph show a proportional relationship. All right, so it says, find the ratio of y to x for table 1 and table 2. Simplify the fraction to simplest form and answer the question that follows. So looking at table 1, how do I find the ratio? They tell us that we do what divided by what? Y divided by x. So in my first row for table 1, what would it be?
It'll be 75 over 1.
75 over 1, which equals 75. All right, what about row 2?
It'll be 120 over 2.
120 divided by 2, which equals 60. The third one? 20 equals what? 55. Go ahead and do the last two. All right, what we get for the next row? 210 divided by 4, which equals 52 points. All right, and then our last one?
51.
All right, let's go ahead. I'm going to give you a few seconds to do table number 2. All right, let's get somebody to come up and do our first row. Come on, Rico. All right, next, the next row. All right, my next row. All right, my next one. And then my last. All right, so number 3 says, which table shows a proportional relationship? Table 2. Why?
It has the same, constant of proportionality.
So we have a constant of proportionality. All right, and then we said, what makes it a proportional relationship?
It has a constant proportionality.
We have a constant of proportionality. All right, so to determine proportionality from a table, what would the rule be? All right, to determine proportionality from a table, what would our rule be? What would we look at?
All the X.
So our y over x, but it has to be what?
It has to be Y equals, constant proportionality.
So we have to have a constant of proportionality, right? All right, let's go ahead and go on. So now we have 2 graphs. Looking at these graphs, what do we notice and what do we wonder? Jeremy. So we notice that this one does not start at the origin. Anything else that we notice? Rico.
I look at it, it just kind of origin, so if it don't kind of origin, it won't be obese.
So there's no constant of proportionality? So let's look at the question. Which graph shows a proportional relationship? This one, right? Why?
Because it's not as far as the origin.
One of them.
All right, I'm gonna give you about 2 minutes in your group to come up with a rule. To determine proportionality from a graph, what rule would you use? Go ahead and talk in your groups. All right, somebody give me the rule. What rule do we come up with? Rico. All right, so to determine proportionality from a graph, it has to always start at the origin. If you agree, give it a thumbs up. If you disagree, thumbs down. If you don't know, just in the middle, I guess. All right, any questions up to this point? You will have 5 minutes to complete the following. As the lesson continues, students are to complete 8 practice problems. 4 of the problems are centered around tables and 4 are centered around the graphs. Each problem will ask them to determine if the table or graph displays a proportional relationship. Did the students meet the objective of the lesson? Yes, they did. In order to determine this, we are going to use the success criteria and the rubric that was established. This rubric will ask students, for 1 point, did they correctly determine if the table was or was not a proportional relationship? They'll get another point if they can correctly determine if the graph is or is not a proportional relationship. They will also get 3 points for explaining their reasoning. That 3 points breaks down to did they correctly restate the question, did they correctly answer the question, and did they provide supporting details as to why they chose their answer. After the cool down has been completed, students will then go through an RTI segment where they will complete activities that support our mastery criteria or standard 8 EEB. In order to deal with tables and graphs, students have to be comfortable finding slope, dealing with the coordinate plane, plotting points, and determining how to find the constant of proportionality, and simplifying ratios. Their RTI piece will focus on all of those skills, and they'll get multiple times to practice those skills through the week.